Here's a unique one from director Luc Besson, best known for The Fifth Element or The Big Blue or La Femme Nikita, comes a new film entitled DogMan. This is a film playing in very limited release. It is unusual action comedy drama, more action drama. There's some action in it. It's got dogs. DogMan. It stars Caleb Landry Jones as a man who is severely abused by his abusive father and brother as a small child, kept in a dog crate, and he becomes one with the dog. He, I guess, has the ability to communicate psychically with dogs. They never quite say it, but that's kind of how this movie works. He's kept in a dog cage, treated and fed like a dog, until he is released in his youth. Due to one reason or another, he has paralyzed from the waist down, and he somehow brings his way up in the subculture of New Jersey. He brings himself up into the world of the shadowy world. This almost could have been an NBC action thriller TV show in the 80s. He operates in this shadowy world between law and the lawless, and he has an army of dogs at his beck and call to do things for him or for those who need help. It's kind of like The Equalizer mixed with Dr. Dolittle or something, but the animals don't talk. Very, very unusual film. I'm going to try to unpack this, as they say, as best I can without giving much away. So Caleb Landry Jones, the film opens, the police pull over this large box truck or large van, and at the wheel is Caleb Landry Jones, looking extremely disheveled and dressed like Marilyn Monroe in the Diamonds Are a Girl's Best Friend musical number from Gentlemen Prefer Blondes. They open the back of the van and it's filled with dogs. And then we cut to Caleb Landry Jones being interrogated, and the framing device for this is he is being interrogated by a police officer about his life and why he did whatever he did. And we don't really learn what he did until partway through the film. And it's really strange. It really didn't work for me. So Jones is transvestite off and on in the film. Ultimately, he comes to be a performer at a drag club somewhere. So there's a lot of that in there. There's a lot of him and how much he loves dogs and how he can just say anything and the dogs will do it. Like in one scene where he's cooking and he'll say to just whatever dog, he's not even looking, he'll say, just give me the brown sugar. And the dog brings the brown sugar. So apparently the dog can read. And all kinds of things where we don't really see him training the dogs. We just see that they'll do whatever he says. So it's almost kind of insinuated that he just has this psychic bond with dogs. It really didn't work for me for any number of reasons. It's shot okay. Performances, It's a lot of what I call Foamericans, a lot of other actors from other countries putting on American accents with varying degrees of success. It doesn't really feel like it's here. It's one of those movies where they try to make it feel like America by just having a very prominent flag waving every once in a while. Back in the 80s, it would always be a picture of the president. Picture of the president on the wall. That must be America. The opening, it's supposed to be set now. He uses a cell phone, so I believe it's supposed to be set like in modern times, but his childhood looks like it's supposed to be the 40s. And the accents of the people around him are just really struggling to sound like American accents. And he learns, I believe he finds his feminine side, and he learns about the world through stacks of magazines his mother had kept hidden, but they're all magazines like from an incredibly long time ago. So it's this weird time warp. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if this was based on a comic book or something like that, because then some of the strange logic in it might make a little bit more sense, or the strange visuals and lack of logic in it might make more sense. It never really feels like it's here. It never really feels like any specific time or place. It feels like an amalgam of times and places. And the crux of the film is that ultimately Jones finds himself living in, I guess it's like an abandoned high school or something with all these dogs, and people who need help come to him, and he'll use the dogs remotely to enact revenge or to pull off cape. It's like the Doberman Gang. I said The Equalizer. It's like a mix of The Equalizer and the Doberman Gang. But the thing about the Doberman Gang and the Amazing Dobermans and those films that were made in the 70s is that they were about trained dogs, and you saw all these training sequences where they were going to. I'm going to talk about the Doberman Gang for a little while. They they were training the dogs in the first movie to rob a bank. And the way they did that is they had an exact replica of the bank, or at least spatially, and they would train the dogs really, really well to be able to operate within the confines of where they had to pull off this caper. You never see anything like that in this movie, so it's always like dogs just know where to go, they know who to talk to, they know what to do to who. It's if you like dogs, I'm sure you will like this film a lot more than I do. I like dogs. I like no beef with dogs. I love a good pup. I like dogs and kitties and all kinds of furry creatures. But mostly what I'm seeing in the positive reviews are people saying it's a masterpiece, or they're going, the dogs were great. And what I will say for this movie, this film shows that apparently you don't have to pay an army of people halfway around the world to create fake-looking digital animals when you can actually just train a dog, which is what film history did for about 100 years or so. And I see so many movies where it's always digital animals, and I'm like, was it really cheaper than having somebody off camera shaking a piece of bacon? You know, I mean, it's ridiculous. So it's cool to see trained animals again for the first time in what feels like a really long time in a film. And I don't know, it really didn't work for me. The writing felt really bad. The plotting and what happens felt very strange. I think there are people who will really get into this and really dig this. It's the trans community does not often have a film with a hero in it that they just happen to be trans. The people who love animals and trained animals will have that, but I just thought it was kind of bad. Good role for Caleb Landry Jones. It's an actor's dream because he is on screen for most of this film, and he really gets to sink his teeth into the role and do a lot. And ultimately, there is an action sequence with the dogs that's very actiony and violent and brutal and kind of funny. But I guess maybe I went into this thinking it was going to be more of an action movie than it was, and it's really not. It's really a drama about Jones, and it's really a drama about how a severely damaged person who is so mistreated in their formative years can sometimes use that damage to their advantage later in life, or can manage to go beyond that and get really good at something. But so much of this movie was just so cheesy to me. So much of this movie felt like, I see this with Hong Kong movies sometimes, or when Hong Kong filmmakers would make movies in America, they would do things that in another language, in their culture, would work great. But when you apply that and give that to, this was a French director, but when you do this in, let's just say for an American audience, it doesn't quite work. If this film was done in a foreign language, if this was a subtitled movie, I probably would have bought it a little bit more than I did here, even with the same dialogue and the same performances. So your mileage may vary. This is not an easy one to see in the theater. This is a film that played at Fantastic Fest in Austin, and the Alamo Drafthouse chain is running. I don't know if it's playing outside the Alamo Drafthouse. Ultimately, like anything, it'll be on video. You'll see it there, but everything is better in the theater. I just didn't think this movie was very good. So in theaters now, from director Luc Besson, DogMan.